Yes, sir.
All right, I just want to make sure we have a quorum. All right, so it is 5:30. This meeting is called to order. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. The Board of Education is meeting electronically due to the gathering size restrictions as defined in Michigan Compiled Law 33.3.2253. The public may participate in the meeting by joining the Zoom link listed above the board agenda. Board members may be contacted through the emails listed below. There's a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. Upon prior request to the superintendent, the district should make reasonable accommodations for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in the meeting, and requests for special assistance may be sent to liz.goodwin@bhas.org. At this time, we'll state the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Madam Vice President, please call the roll.
Deshauna's there.
Secretary
Oh,
Rob.
Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So I call the roll for you, President Taylor,
Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson is present, Treasurer Buchanan, Trustee Wadley Seats, Trustee Bradley,
Present.
Trustee Watson.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum. May I have a motion for the approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Moved
Support.
by Vice President Crowder, supported by Trustee Watson. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote for the approval of the agenda? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson, votes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes. At this time, we have public comment on agenda items only. The public can comment on anything on the agenda only. Are there any participants online for public comment on agenda items only? All right, we'll keep it moving. May I have the approval for the minutes, for a motion for the approval of the minutes from October 13th, 2020 regular board meeting?
So moved. Support.
Moved by Trustee Watson, supported by Trustee Bradley. I'll give you guys a second to peruse that document so we can verify that all items are correct. All right, so we have a motion and a support for the October 13th, 2020 regular board meeting. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote? Or any corrections? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee Watson.
Yes.
Motion passes. For board business, I just want to talk about a rumor that was on Facebook. We want to make sure that we just be factual. So one of the rumors were, you know, the Benton Harbor School Board was using $200,000 for home visits to support students. Well, that's not factual. The facts are that from a $200,000 donation that went to the Benton Harbor Area Foundation, which is a fiduciary 501(c) and not affiliated with the school, they in turn gave Benton Harbor area schools $40,000 so that we could send people out to the students' homes as we do this virtual meetings for any needs that the students may have. So I just want to lay the facts out there because sometimes we get this unfactual information and then the community runs wild with it. And that's not factual. So Benton Harbor area schools did not spend any money out of their general fund or anything like that. The $40,000 grant came from the Benton Harbor Educational Foundation. And as I will state again, that money was used to support students at their homes. All right. So I just wanted to get that rumor out of the way. Next up is Dr. Townsend. And Dr. Townsend, if you could speak on that just for clarification to make sure that I didn't make a mistake.
Oh, copy. Thank you, President Taylor. Yes, we do have a partnership with Concentric Education Solutions, and the goal is to support students with home visits during this pandemic. As we often talked about, young people in some cases have concerns with regards to engaging in school, some not having access, and you know, just truancy in general. Benton Harbor has always had truancy issues. But this service allows for professional student advocates to go to the homes of up to 400 students in our district. So that's about a quarter of our students using a multi-tiered system of support framework to identify what needs our students may have, and we meet those needs. This is all for kids, and our goal is to support student achievement and ensure that they have a good education experience even during the pandemic. So it's all with good, positive intentions. You know, nothing to hide, no games to be played, just supporting kids. And that's what that's for. So I appreciate you for sharing that, President Taylor.
No problem. And so Dr. Townsend, up next is Staff Report S1, Resolution for Open Meetings Act. You have the floor, sir.
Yes, thank you. So this is a resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act, whereas the Open Meetings Act was recently amended to grant greater latitude with respect to electronic participation by members of the Board of Education in the public in certain circumstances. And whereas the Board of Education desires to utilize electronic participation as necessary and in approved circumstances in compliance with the law. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows, that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent to create procedures to accommodate electronic participation by board members who are absent due to a medical condition or due to a statewide or local state of emergency declared pursuant to law or charter by the governor or local official or local governing body that would risk the personal health or safety of members of the public or public body if the meeting were held in person. In the event of such an emergency, if the meeting location is usually held in an affected area, the entire board may participate electronically. Otherwise, only members who reside in the affected area may participate electronically. For purposes of this paragraph, medical conditions mean illness, injury, disability, or other health-related conditions. Electronically may include video or telephonic conferencing. By procedures, we must provide for two-way communication, for each board member of the board attending the meeting electronically, a public announcement at the outset of the meeting by that member to be included in the meeting minutes that the member is in fact attending the meeting electronically, and except for members who are participating electronically due to military duty, stating the county, city, township, or village and state where the member is located. And 3, a means by which the public is provided notice of the absence of a member and information about how to contact the member sufficiently in advance of the meeting to provide input on any business that will come before the board. Through December 31st, 2020, the board may hold its meetings electronically in whole or in part for any reason. The board further authorizes from January 1, 2021 through December 31st, 2021, electronic participation solely under the circumstance of 8 of this resolution, as well as a pre-existing law requiring an accommodation due to absence chronically. The board authorizes the use of technology to facilitate typed public comments during the meeting that may be read or shared with board members and other participants in satisfaction of the requirement that members of the public be heard by others during the electronic meeting, and that the requirement that they be permitted to address the board. Advance notice of any meetings held electronically in whole or in part shall be posted on the district's website, either on the homepage or on separate web page dedicated to public notices for non-regularly scheduled or electronic public meetings through a prominent or conspicuous link on the homepage. This notice must be posted at least 18 hours before the meeting begins. Notice of a meeting held electronically must explain as follows. 1, why the board is meeting electronically. 2, how members of the public may participate in a meeting electronically, including provisions of specific telephone number, internet address, or both needed to participate. 3, how members of the public may contact members of the board to provide input or ask questions of any business that will come before the board at the meeting. 4, how persons with disabilities may participate in the meeting. If an agenda exists for an electronic meeting under this resolution, the board shall post the agenda on the website at least 2 hours before the meeting begins. This does not prohibit subsequent amendment of the agenda at the meeting. Members of the public who are participating electronically or in person shall not be required to register other than as required by the members of the public will not be allowed to participate in any closed sessions during the meeting held electronically or in whole or in part, and all prior laws and bylaws related to closed sessions continue to apply. Now be I further resolved, the execution of this resolution is conclusive evidence of the Board of Education's approval of this action and the authority granted herein. So the resolution to accommodate the changes of the Open Meeting Act as recently enacted by Senate Bill 1108, reason for board approval. As amended, the Open Meetings Act allows for continuation of virtual meetings for any circumstances through the end of this calendar year and provides retroactive application to deem as valid all virtual meetings that have taken place since March 18, 2020, under the now defunct executive orders. Facts and analysis. This legislation amends the Open Meetings Act to permit virtual meetings and allow individual members to virtually participate and vote in public meetings under specific circumstances. The district is asking the board to approve this resolution so that the board and the public can continue to meet virtually control the spread of the COVID-19 virus by minimizing the gathering of large groups of people in accordance with current maximums as defined by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the resolution to accommodate the changes to the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Superintendent. May I have a motion for the approval of Resolution S1, staff report?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Crowder. May I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Trustee Watson. Any questions, comments, concerns from the board before we call the vote? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee Watson.
Yes.
All right, staff report number S1 passes. Staff report number F1, charter school resolution, first reading, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. The reason for board consideration, there has been discussion in the community about the possibility of another entity establishing a new charter school within the boundaries of Benton Harbor area schools. Facts analysis over the past decade and beyond, this school district has lost a substantial number of students and the corresponding state school aid act to charter schools within the district. As the district continues its long journey to deficit recovery, one legislative change that would aid the recovery is a state moratorium on the approval of any charter schools within the district boundaries. The attached resolution requests such a moratorium from the state of Michigan. And I would note that there is no policy reference, and this is presented as a first reading and as a discussion item, not as an action item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson. So any questions, comments, concerns to Mr. Johnson or among ourselves regarding the aforementioned resolution? Any discussion from the board? I would just say this. I believe, I'm just going to put the name out there. I don't care. I think it's Michigan Works. And that entity is trying to bring to life a charter school in the Benton Harbor area school district area. Connexus, I'm sorry. Yes, because it used to be Michigan Works, I think. I'm sorry. So Connexus. And so I think the two charter agencies that they're trying to go through would be probably Grand Valley State University, I believe, and Central Michigan. So for all those who are listening, you know, make phone calls to those two agencies. Oh, we don't want you to help form another charter in our district because we're trying to survive and grow our student base, right? So we know that charters have been taken away from that. So that's why this resolution is so profound, because we're basically saying to the state of Michigan, look, it would be nice if legislators would pass a rule to give us at least a 5-year window to stop any charters from coming into the Benton Harbor area school district, because within 5 years, we know that we would have redefined our debt by lowering our debt, redefined our student educational growth in those 5 years. So we need time to do what's right, and we don't really need another competitor coming in to take away our students. And so that's my opinion. And I think it should be the opinion of any board in our area, because right now, you know, the superintendent has good connections with the school boards in Barron County for all students in Barron County, right? Not just in any singular school district. We're working together now in the best. See a charter school from Connexus. Hopefully they will take the hint to cease and desist. Any,
President Taylor.
go ahead, sir.
Just in that same line of comment, it's awful ironic that the Ben Harbor Area Schools District is the only one where charter schools seem to be popping up at nauseam. And if the state of Michigan is committed to school district is sustainable, this should be something that should be almost a no-brainer. And like I said, no other district has to deal with the number of charter schools in their boundaries as Ben Harbor Area Schools does. So I'm in full support of this going to the state of Michigan, and I'm hoping that we have a favorable result from it.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to say, add on to those comments. I think that right now, to me personally, I think that we're oversaturated with charter schools as it is right now, and having another one right now would, impact our district in a negative manner, especially when we're trying to, reestablish ourselves and get reorganized and everything. So it's definitely something I would be supporting too, that we can, present to the state.
Well said. Anyone else from the board?
When will this be presented to the state?
First reading. Next month, we'll vote on this. And then after
Okay.
that, they can ship it off.
Okay.
Would that be correct, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
These entities, such as the one you named, if they're committed to community building and community development, they would do everything that they could to help the district versus trying to recruit and to pilfer off students from the district. I just think it's in poor taste to do something like that if you're in the city of Benton Harbor or the Benton Harbor Area School District, and you say that you're committed to helping this community. By starting another charter school or even thinking about starting another charter school does not bode well for what you say you're trying to do. It just speaks to the contrary.
Thank you, sir. All right, Liz, we can go back to the main page or the main portion of the agenda. Thank you. So that was staff report number F1. It was just the first reading. Next month, we'll get the final resolution to vote on. Staff report number F2, monthly financial reports.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Johnson.
Reason for board consideration. A set of financial reports is provided to the Board of Education each month. Facts and analysis. This evening, it's recommended that payments for all of the district's funds be approved for September 2020. Policy reference is 6470, payment of claims. And the recommended action is that the Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education votes to approve the September 2020 payments for the funds as listed below.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of staff report number F2, monthly financial
moved.
reports? Moved by Trustee Watson.
Support.
Supported by Vice President Crowder. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson, Trustee Watson,
Yes.
Staff report number 3, F3 passes.
was that F2 or F3?
I'm sorry, that was F2. Now we have staff report F3, snowplow bid. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Reason for board consideration. The district solicited bids for snow plowing and salt application service for this coming winter. Facts analysis. During the October 10 board meeting, the board affirmatively voted to authorize Dr. Townsell to award the snow bid or bids for the 2021 school year and to inform the board at the next board meeting. On October 26, a public bid opening was held for the snowplow bids. One bid was received, and that bid was from John Withrow Excavating Incorporated, and the bid prices are provided on an attachment. Pursuant to the board's authorization of Dr. Townsell to approve the snowplow and salt bid, Dr. Townsell awarded the bid that was received from John Withrow Excavating for snowplowing and salt application service for the 2021 school year on November 2. There's no policy reference. There's no recommended action. This is for information purposes only.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Does the board have any questions with the approval of the snowplow bid? All right, thank you. Staff report number F4, summer tax resolution.
Thank you. Reason for board consideration. Each year, the board votes on a resolution to levy 100% of the school property taxes during the summer. Facts analysis. By levying 100% of the district's school property during the summer, payable by mid-September, the district is able to reduce the amount of funds borrowed in the state aid note borrowing program, thereby reducing the annual borrowing costs. There's no policy reference. Vote to approve the proposed annual summer tax resolution for 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. May I have a motion for the approval of staff report number F4?
So move.
Moved by trustee Bradley. May I have a second?
Support.
Supported by Vice President Crowder. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding staff report number F4 before we call the vote?
May I offer one observation? In the resolution, it was written to reflect that the board meeting would be an in-person meeting, and if it would be amenable, if the board would be amenable to this, I'd like to propose that we make a slight modification so it stipulates that this meeting was not a regular meeting, that it was a Zoom meeting.
Okay, so you want that noted in the staff report, sir?
If I may modify the resolution to add a note that it was via Zoom before the board secretary signs it, that would be helpful.
And you know what, if you would just state that again, Mr. Johnson, then, then it's a matter of record because we've stated it. So where it was in person, you can just state at a Zoom meeting. If you would do that now, then we would correct it at the table right now.
Thank you. Then the recommended motion or action is that the Benton Harbor Schools Board of Education vote to approve the proposed annual summer tax resolution for 2021 and to have the resolution modified to reflect that it was approved in a Zoom meeting.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So we have a new recommended action. We already had a support in a second. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee Watson,
Yes.
Staff report number F4 passes. Staff report number H1, employment or transfers of staff. Mrs. Gale?
Hello, everybody. Submitting for board consideration to approve the employment of staff in accordance with the revised school code and other general laws of Michigan. We have one new hire, Kevin Renfro, virtual teacher, social studies at the high school. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education vote to approve the employment of the aforementioned staff.
Thank you. May I have a motion for staff report H1?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Crowder. May I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Trustee Bradley. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding staff report H1 before we call the vote? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Watson.
Staff report number H1 passes. Staff report number H2, terminations and or retirements or resignations.
Submitting for board consideration to accept the resignation of the following staff: Laquita Brumfield, teacher, kindergarten, and Anna Layer, teacher, special education. Recommended action. Can you scroll down, please, a little bit, please? That the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education vote to accept the resignation of the aforementioned staff members.
Thank you. May I have a motion for the approval of staff report number H2?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Watson. May I have a support?
Support.
Any questions, comments, or concerns before we call the vote for staff report number H2? Madam Secretary?
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
Trustee Watson.
Yes.
Staff report number H2 passes. Staff report T1, extended learning plan update. Dr. Sheldon.
Thank you. As promised, I know the information that I present is a little dry, and I told you before that I was going to put it in a PowerPoint just to kind of recap and make it a little bit easier to look at, because I threw a whole bunch of numbers at you all the last time. And I am having problems with my mouse. Plan our November board meeting reconfirmation. We report on 3 assurances: the progress on educational goals as established by our benchmarks, weekly transaction rates, and instructional delivery. So what was presented to you the last time, and now we're starting to look ahead, was our results from the NWEA benchmark assessments. In reading, I just thought I'd do it visually so you could see what the goal was for the fall, what students actually achieved. So I'll give you a moment to look at that. And we start looking ahead now when we retest in February what we're shooting for. Highlighted in yellow means we exceeded our goal, always a positive. On this page, where we didn't exceed the goal, there's no warning, you know, we're so far behind, we're worried. So we do think that we'll make gains on it. We'll keep our eye on the second grade scores. Next page. K5 math, again, you can see what our goal was. The yellow exceeded. And what our goal is for February. So when you look at those columns together, you see that we're not that far off and we're on a good trajectory. 6, 7, 8, reading. Again, 2 grades out of the 3 exceeded their goal. And we look at February to see that we're not that far off. And then we'll do math. 6, 7, 8. We did not exceed our goal, but we made good growth toward the goal, and we just have to push toward February. So I'm going to stop right there, and I'm just going to explain. Sometimes there's a misunderstanding about assessments like NWEA, and unfortunately in education, we've really programmed people to think about, he got an A, he got a B, he passed it, he didn't pass it. With this type of benchmarking, there's no such thing as passing or not passing. It is an indicator to tell us where students are, and we use this information to plan our instructions to get them to the next level. So that's really an important piece that we want to put out there, particularly for our parents to understand. There's no letter grade with this. This is, where are our students performing and what do we need to do to move to the next level? It is this information that our teachers, our administrators, our support staff meet and discuss on a regular basis, many times on Fridays, that virtual day that we have, and they talk about, okay, as a grade level, our goal was 92.9, we did 88.2. What's next? What do we have to do next? The one thing that you guys are not seeing, a reason that people like using NWEA there are a ton of reports behind this saying very specifically, you can look kid by kid to say, this kid needs a little bit more on computation. This kid needs a little bit more on just simple addition, etc. So as we break the data down and work toward the goal, that is what our work is about. And this is how we use this particular data. So we keep pushing forward. We won't test again until February. So we will have 4 columns for you to look at to see, actually 5, because then we'll look at the end of the year goal as well. Go ahead. Next slide, please. Weekly interaction rates. So this is the one assurance that has been very difficult to hone in on what exactly the state wants us to, 1, report publicly, but 2, what data is going to be used to determine whether we made a participation rate to receive funds, etc. And we get information almost on a weekly basis. So we're starting to get more and more information. If you remember, the first 2 columns that you see is what I presented the last. So that's why I highlighted them in a gray. So the rest of what you see are weekly interaction rates. What it truly is it's a mix of attendance and the 2-way interaction that we document in PowerSchool as, I contacted the child, this is what we talked about, and this is what the child said back. That's what we mean by 2-way interactions, believe it or not. It actually really means exactly that. As you see, I highlighted the yellow of where we're falling short. This is documentation only. If I run several other reports, we can show that we have much better participation, but for the sake of what was first given to us, this is what we're going with, and that is, did we document well? Who is communicating with kids, whether it's through a virtual classroom or it's one-on-one? You do see our middle school and our high school that our rates are low and dropping, and we are addressing that. At this point, I did want to stop for a moment. Dr. Townsend, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, thank you. So bottom line is our goal is to, I love that we have to be transparent. I want everyone, not only in our community, but even outside the community, to know that in order for us to be a revitalized district, we have to call it what it is. And if there's areas of improvement, we identify those areas and we work hard to improve on it. And we have a team of educators here who are dedicated to not only data quality, but student achievement. Even going back to those NWEA scores with us exceeding our growth goals, that's a good sign because we're in a pandemic and we do know a that's why we are reaching out to supports such as home visits or reaching out to other foundations, because not only is it unprecedented, you have to be innovative and not afraid to take risk to do what's best for our kids. So when we report next week, we do hope to have increased numbers, especially at the secondary level, looking at middle school and high school. But it would be good to get those advocates to those schools and say, hey, listen, why aren't your young people logging in online? What support do you need? And that's an ongoing thing. I mean, we kind of lose sleep over this, but we're dedicated to the education of our students here in Benton Harbor. Thank you, Dr. Shelton.
Yep. Ms. Liz, will you go to the next page? And the last that you see is for this past week. That is the wrong date. I apologize. So that date should actually say 11/2 to 11/6. It's a November date. And so that's what our numbers look like. All right, next page. The third assurance that we have to report on, and this is the reconfirmation, that we have not changed our method of instructional delivery. So we continue to be K-8 face-to-face in AM/PM waves, synchronous teaching. We also have the option of K-8 100% virtual, synchronous teaching. In our 9-12, whether it be the high school or Cape Center, it continues to be virtual, both synchronous and asynchronous teaching. So there's no change there. And that is actually the staff report that we will confirm that there's no change. However, last slide. We recently came together as an executive team and presentation if you want more specifics. We are going to go to 100% virtual K-8, remain 9-12 virtual at the end of Thanksgiving break through December Christmas break, and return January 4th, I believe the date is, to face-to-face if by mid-December we deem that it's safe to come back. I share with you some of the reasons that we have made this decision. That's the end of my presentation. On the agenda, you will see the progress, the instructional delivery, and the weekly interaction rates. That's everything I presented in the PowerPoint. I just wanted to present it in a more friendly format instead of just looking at numbers and not have a discussion around it. And I'm going to go on to Liz, if you go ahead and bring up my staff report. Thank you. Reason for consideration. On August 20th, 2020, Governor Whitmer signed House Bill 5913 into law as Public Act 149, Section 98A, states that in order to receive state aid for 2020-2021, districts must provide for instruction under an extended COVID-19 learning plan, here as known as the plan, that has been approved by an intermediate district or authorizing body. The plan must be reconfirmed each month at the monthly meeting of the school board. Facts and analysis. In policy 0122, school board powers, the board has the responsibility to the performance of any function related to the operation of the school district in the interest of public elementary and secondary education in the district, including educating students, providing for the safety and welfare of students while at school or at school sponsored activity, or while en route to or from school or school sponsored activity. Policy reference, Michigan Public Act 149, Section 98A. Recommended action that the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education reconfirm that there are no modifications to the instructional delivery mode of the COVID-19 extended learning plan. And let me be clear, we're reconfirming what we're doing right now at our December board meeting. we have to reconfirm that we actually went to all virtual.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion for staff report L1,
So moved.
moved by Vice President Crowder. May I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Trustee Bradley. Any questions, comments, concerns before we call the vote? And also, Dr. Sheldon, do we need a public participation?
Yes, we do.
All right, so before we even call the vote, is there anyone on the Zoom conference call?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mrs. Williams. Miss Williams, I'm sorry.
I just had a couple of questions with the averages, the educational goals. And what are the state averages? I see that she had the averages that you guys said that you guys put together, or whomever the committee is for that, but what are the state averages?
So in terms of the NWEA, there is no such data as state averages.
So how do you know how many children are tested? Like how were the children tested at home, and how many children were tested? Were all the children on the verge?
No, when we do benchmark testing, it's for every student in the district, and testing happen in different settings. We do have face-to-face, so many face-to-face. I believe that, and I think they got a pretty high percentage.
Okay, and then with the when you went down to the hold on, let me see what was the interaction.
Yes.
And with the high school being the lowest, with the high school being the lowest for the interaction, is that going by children that are logged in, students that are logging in?
No, it is not solely based on that. And that's why you're going to see that these percentages are going to change, because they've given us different options of how we log two-way communication. Right now, we're going under the original way they said to calculate it, but we just got more guidance and more reports of how we can log it. But no, right now, because just logging in, that actually is a virtual attendance. That's a positive attendance, but just logging in without a two-way back and forth with the teacher of record does not count as two-way interaction.
Okay, so how are these numbers, these percentages calculated? I guess that's what I'm asking. How are these?
I'm sorry. It's calculated off of two-way interaction documentation that's put into PowerSchool.
And that's done by the teachers?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I guess what we need to be trying to find out and figure out is how do we, as a community and as teachers and as administrators, that's really low for, the students to be at home and the children to not be at school. That's kind of really low with the interaction. And I understand that there's a third-party program or something coming in, but we have plenty of people in the community that can do that work and advocate and go, and we don't have to go into homes. 58% is kind of embarrassing.
Correct. I'm happy to address it further if I had time to prepare more of a response for you, because it's quite extensive. For example, one thing that you mentioned is we often struggle with correct information. So emailing and getting emailed back, or calling and calling back. Again, in this particular case, so it's a little deceiving looking at these numbers. We said that we were going to use the two-way interaction documentation in PowerSchool for this. We just got notification that we can actually use more. So this really reflects the original way we were told. But kind of going back to what you said, if I were to run the reports, I'm sorry, I didn't even say this. So Liz, could you please bring back up the PowerPoint?
Because you can talk about the percentages, right? In the parentheses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you bring up the PowerPoint and you go to, and I'm so sorry for not having them labeled, but I think slide 7. So just click, click, click.
And can you explain what the two-way interaction is?
I sure can.
So that I can better understand. I'm just trying to get a clear understanding, because a lot of it I'm confused, and I'm just like, what are these numbers coming from?
Okay.
And what am I reading?
Very, very valid. So if you see with the high school, what I did put in play is those little numbers underneath. So where you see 50%, then it says 84, 58%, 83, 35%. That is actually attendance. So if we use the attendance code, we make the two-way interaction. We always put it there just so people understand that we actually are engaged with the kids. It's just that number on top currently does not meet the standard for how they define two-way interaction. But by no means are 50% of our kids, or let's go to the 35%, by no means are our teachers only working with 35% of our kids.
So the
Right.
actual number, for example, looking at 35, the actual number is really with us working hard, perfecting our data. 35 is what it's run under a specific guideline, but the actual number is 81%. And, you know, 81% is not good enough for me. I got a 100% mentality, but we'll be fine. That's why we have the support of a home visiting framework, because we don't know what are asking kids to go to work when they should be in school. And that goes against a permit. When you give a student a permit, they're permitted to only work a particular amount of hours outside of school hours. And we have some jobs asking our 15, 16, 17-year-old young people to come in for extra hours during school time. We have to, address that. So there's many different variables, but it is really good to get out into our community and find out what the needs are, how we can support as a district, because I don't want to see 81% of my high school students. I want to see no less than 99, 98, 97% of our kids.
And thank you, Dr. Thompson.
So,
Ms.
I'm
Williams,
sorry.
would you like me to share with you so you can see what two-way communication is?
Yes, because I'm trying to see, is that conducive to these numbers, the two-way interaction? I get, go ahead and explain the two-way interaction.
Liz, can you stop sharing, please? First, I need to make sure, can everybody see this screen that says wellness checks as two-way communications? Okay, so I'm going to share this particular screen because this particular document, we have another document that just talks about two-way communication, but we had a question of, do our wellness checks also count as that? So we put together this flow chart. So this will help. Two-way communication is defined as contact, face-to-face conversation, email, phone conversation, instant messaging, or virtual meeting space, content, or academic progress. So I'll give you a perfect example. The school that does this the best is Cape Center, All Alternative Ed, because they are virtual and they have always been virtual. So they've got this down. This is nothing new for them. Our students at Cape use Edgenuity. Edgenuity can serve as the teacher content, meaning like, just like at a college, if I'm going to take biology, I don't really even have to talk to anybody at Cape. Just go in, give me my courses, let me do my studying, let me do the assignments, let me take my test on my own. That's called asynchronous, that somebody else, but you do have an adult watching you. However, at Cape, you still have to do two-way communication. Before this pandemic, it is at least one time a week, but we always make sure that we do it 2 times or more. So what Josh Perkins, the director there, does, has his staff do, is they have virtual type with their kids, and they ask, okay, what are you having trouble with? All right, I see that in your social studies, you are actually like 5 assignments behind. What can I help you with? And then when they're done having those conversations and helping them, they document it. That is very, very solid two-way communication. We can get by just simply sending an email and say, hey, how are you doing? What do you need help with? The student comes back and says, well, I'm having a little bit of trouble with whatever. And the teacher says, you know what? I'm going to send you this YouTube video. That's called two-way communication. We ask academic questions, that even our wellness checks can count as two-way communication. And that doesn't have to be the teacher of record. It can be a specialist. It can be one of our social workers, etc. So I hope.
So who in the district is monitoring the two-way communication? Like, who is the overseer of the two-way communication? Because from the presentation, 65% of our students, they were not serviced. So that's a big number.
So that's a great question. And every site principal is responsible for his or her numbers.
Wow.
All right.
Again, make sure it's not the 65, it's really that 81, so the 19%. That's why we put it in parentheses, because we just have.
Well, the attendance in the two-way communicate interactions is 2 different things.
That I agree, but we internally are identifying to ensure that we have accurate data input here at our level. So we're on top of
I
it.
understand, but you said that the 84%, I'm not going back and forth. I'm just one that like to state fact, like to have no facts and have the facts. You said that the 84% was the attendance, and the 50% and the 58% and the 35%, those 80% were the attendance of students logging in. But the 50%, the 58%, and 35%.
So
what, we got 2 whole different numbers. I'm confused.
No. Students logging in is not the only way of taking the attendance. That's why we even bother putting the attendance number, because there are so many things that we do to say yes, virtually present, that actually could count for the two-way, but there are also a number of things that don't. So we try not to use that attendance number. We're trying to really push everybody to document that two-way communication in the tab, so we can just pull strictly that information. So just know that in the high school, the majority of the students are not logging into an Edgenuity. We only have several classes on Edgenuity. Our high school teachers are actually hosting Canvas, Google Meets, Google classes that they're actually interacting with kids. That's why the 84, the 83, it actually is very relevant, because they are face-to-face with kids via the Google Meet. But what we ask them to do, so Ms. Williams, don't think that you're wrong in saying this, because you're getting at a very important point. We ask them to do the two-way communication logs for accountability. And what we see is that those numbers have dropped because they're not completing this documentation.
So I'm going to stop you guys there. And Ms. Williams, can we do this for you? Liz, could you, Ms. Williams, could you give Liz your email online right now? And then she can present to you the slides that we just went over. Because we have to move on. I want to make sure that someone else has the chance to address the board in this matter, but I want to make sure that you have the data, you know, the slides, so you can show and give that input to your fellow community members, you know, who may not understand.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for your response. And I'll definitely some type of way get my email, because I mean, them numbers are way off, and we need to figure something out to because it's been looking good on the outside, but these numbers are not showing change.
Well, can we, can you give your email number?
I will.
You could just give that right now to Liz or whatever, or, and that way we can get that information to you.
Yep, it's Apollonia_Ellis, AP as in Paul, OLLONIA_Ellis @yahoo.com.
All right, appreciate you, Apollonia.
Thank you, no problem.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public participation on the extended learning plan?
Yes, Commissioner Mary Alice Adams.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I haven't heard anything, but is there anybody checking on our teachers' well-being?
I don't know. That's that's not part of the public participation comment for that extended learning plan, right? We want to kind of direct that to that slide presentation that we did. So I wouldn't know that answer because right now we're all in a pandemic, right?
Right.
Facing obstacles, even our students, right? It's hard for them as well.
Right.
Mr. Taylor, can I offer a brief response?
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for that question. Yes, we do check on our teachers regularly. As a matter of fact, the district has recently or is about to finalize the implementation of the employee assistance plan. And it is a very rich and robust plan that we're putting in place for our employees to address mental health issues or any other issues people may have. So that is one of the things we're doing for our staff.
I really appreciate that. Thank you, because without them and their well-being, our children would continue to be lost. Thank you.
Very important point. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
President
I
Taylor.
have a quick question. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, President Taylor, I had one question. I just wanted to remind people that this is very new for our teachers, and they're just now learning about interactive with their students to be counted for the state. So it's going to take a month or two. You have to align their lesson so that they're interacting with more students one-on-one and be able to put down what they actually did with each student. And that's why our percentage is down so much, because they haven't had that. They had the attendance, but they may not have been able to interact with all those students at once. So once they get that down, the percentage will go up.
And just for clarity, just to piggyback what you're saying, Vice President Crowder, it's a matter of logging. So the kids are attending class.
Yes.
We have to log that in to make sure. And over time, what we saw is that got more lax with logging. And our high school principal did bring that to his staff. So those numbers won't look like that the next time we present.
I heard someone else had a comment before Vice President Crowder.
Yes, it was me. It's Angel. I just had a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
If Dr. Sheldon, if you can go back to the NWEA scores, I just had a question, and this is probably something that you guys have already done.
Okay.
And this is just something that helped me a lot as a parent personally. And so I just wonder if this was something that you guys are already doing. Okay, so like for the NWEA, I have a second grader. And so looking at, and this is a conversation I had with his teacher, looking at the RIT score, I just wonder, I guess for, the next time to just kind of help understand the numbers and so that the board members or the public could better understand. When we say the goal is 172, is that the goal for, like, what is the state goal or what is the district? You say that's the goal, where should they be placing grade level wise?
So you want to know the normative.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to kind of correct that because I know that I think in discussion someone said that it's really no state average when she asked that, and I know that
There is
it is
not.
some kind of, but
There
there
is
is
no
like a normal or a grade level expectation, correct?
Right. Set our goals. We
Mhm.
set our goals using a status norm, meaning looking at our kids and how they have grown
Right.
past.
Mhm.
So the first set, the goal that you see, the first goal you see is a realistic goal that is not low and that is not too lofty, going with a normative. We don't want to be compared to, we don't want to be compared to private school, et cetera, which often happens. We need to be compared to ourselves and what we are capable of doing. So we use normative status to establish our goal.
Right. So right. So I'm just so okay. Thank you.
And I do want to add this. I don't think, I think we all know that Benton Harbor area schools has chronically underperformed for years. So it is safe to assume that we are well below the state average. I will say that. We've been a bottom 5% district for a while. We don't expect to be that over the next years. And definitely this year, specifically during the
I think the
pandemic.
expectation needs to be day one, but I don't, even
Sure.
those scores, those aren't bad goals. I'm not saying that it's a bad goal. I was just adding that there is a state or an expected or normative where she said it wasn't. So I wasn't trying to be combative. I was just saying that in the effort to say, okay, this is a realistic goal for, that is a normative goal. Like for the fall of the school year in second grade, 172 is an acceptable average, and so yeah. So I wasn't trying to go against what she was saying. I was just saying in the effort to understand it, I think it's, if you just say like, oh, okay, this, I was just adding that one thing. Like if you just say like this is a good realistic goal, the average second grader in Benton Harbor or in Michigan or in California, to have an X, Y, and Z, RIT score, this will be acceptable. And so, it's not like a bad goal. I just wonder when you look at that, when you look at the goal and we think about average, the percentage wise, like how many, so if my son's second grade RIT score for the fall was 172, how would he score, with his peers? What would
You
that
talking
be
about
the average of?
percentiles?
And that's all I was saying.
You talking about the percentile?
Yeah, yep. So I was just kind of, correcting that one thing that like, I think it would be helpful if you can say, like, if you look at the RIT score, that prints out for each student, and I'm saying this from a parent perspective, if you look at that, then, as parents are on here, everyone on here does not know or understand the NWEA reading. And so I was just kind of suggesting that if you put on there what the normative score would be, then the data wouldn't look so bad. When you say, well, 157, a 157 RIT score for the fall is still not bad during virtual learning. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not like a negative. I was saying it could be a positive as well. Because when you look at the data, it looks like it went down or you didn't reach your goal. But 157 is still not a bad, RIT score for the fall. So I was only suggesting if you put on there what an average or acceptable grade level benchmarking score would be, then it wouldn't look so negative. Sometimes we look at this and we say, oh, well, we wanted 172 and, they were at 157. 157 is still not a bad fall RIT score, during the pandemic. So that was just a suggestion, like, like.
Mrs. Creighton, you're correct. I like what you just said, because so basically what you're saying is let's put it on the sheet. So when parents do see it, they can identify it, understand it, right?
Right, because it's at the bottom of each printout, on the NWEA scoring, definitely. So if you see that, like for me, I freaked out, but once I looked at, the percentile, my son's score was good. But according to my expectation, I thought that it meant something negative, but it is not. It's just a number. Yeah. So if you identify, you can see like, oh, okay, this is actually decent data. When you look at it, it's decent data. Like Dr. Townsend said, in the middle of everything that's going on, low performance, this is not bad data. If this is, the majority of students testing, and this is what the overall. So I was just suggesting, yeah, if we put on there, like, oh, okay, this will be an acceptable score. You know, we wanted them to, we were shooting for the stars. They were at 157, but that's still a decent score according to X, Y, and Z. So that was just a suggestion, nothing more.
No, it's a great suggestion. Dr. Sheldon, is that something we can do for the December board meeting? Because I know that as our new board members come in January, right, this would be something to look ahead to. So the next time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Anyone else for participation for the progress on educational goals and the extended learning plan?
Yes, this is Ronaldo Triplett. How are you all doing?
Good, sir.
I was calling. I've been here listening, and I was too concerned or looking at the two-way communication, and in particular looking at the high school and how you can see week after week after week the decrease to way or with about attendance, but there is a major decrease. And I was just wondering, I think you got monitoring that and making sure that the teachers are on top of and doing what it is they're expected to do. But with the NWEA, I was looking at the data too, and I was saying I had the same question about formative. And I think that for me, it should be presented regardless of what in the fall, second graders across this country should be at this particular level. And that should be presented so that we can identify, because we have parents just like Ms. Creighton. She looked at it. Parents still, there are some parents, we can't just take everybody and put them in the same pool. There are some parents that are actually, so the normative, I looked at this data, I said, okay, well, they set a goal for 172, but what is the normative? What is the goal? And how are we coming to this decision that is that low, is that high, is that, and where does this expectation come from? So I think if we go from the normative, if I can see, or parents can see what is expected in the fall, second graders should be at this particular point. In the winter, in February, this is what they're shooting for. And then in the spring, so everybody will have an understanding of what it is that we're shooting for to move our district and move our kids forward, instead of saying that we know that Ben Harbor is low. We know that Ben Harbor is a failing school district because we've had several students to reach that goal of the normative. And that's what teachers strove for. So that would be a good piece for us to see, just for those who are coming into the meeting and looking at the data, so that the data can be transparent. And we have people that have an understanding and come from here and go to their homes or to their spaces and to their places to be able to make the necessary adjustments. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Mr. Triplett.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
President Taylor,
Yes,
if I
ma'am.
can get Elizabeth to, Liz to click out of this and to go to the agenda, because I did this PowerPoint to simplify some of the information, but if we go to the agenda and click on the progress on educational goals, the original document that I presented and have presented every board meeting. Down, let's just do kindergarten. Go back up. And there, all the information that everybody is asking about has been presented from the beginning and continues to be presented. This is what we actually keep posted. I did the PowerPoint just to explain, because before I just kind of threw at you guys that we got this, we scored here. So your norm is there. And you can see what our goal was. So many times, again, like I said, we try to go with a status norm and not the the regular norm that is presented to us, because we know that that norm tends to be much higher because it's based on a very different demographic, a mixture, and we like to go with the demographic that reflects us. And I'm happy to repost the document of how we came to those. If you guys remember that we came to it because of summer slide, because of pandemic, we went with different, we used the status norm. So the goal, for example, we established for reading for kindergarten was 132.6, but the norm for NWEA for kindergarten is 136.6. So I just want to make sure that everybody, our public, knows that this document is the document that we use and have been using. The PowerPoint was just to simplify the
Dr.
information.
Sheldon, is this online as well?
That's on, yes, it's online. I will make sure I'll make sure that I will double check of exactly where it is, but I'm happy to make sure that it's front and center because it's part of the transparency
And
reporting.
also, Liz, could you do me a favor and send that to Mr. Triplett, Mrs. Angel Clark, Creighton, as well as Trenton Bowens and Mrs. Rockett.
Does that satisfy, is that what we're referring to, Mr. Triplett as well as Ms. Creighton?
Correct. Yes. That way they can just have that data. You know, they're coming aboard anyway, so this is good for their onboarding. And then we can start to maybe correct the PowerPoint just by adding, you know, the normative, et cetera. But right now, just wanted to make sure we get those new members that information.
Yep, not a problem.
All right.
Trustee Taylor,
Yes, ma'am.
may I ask another question? And it has everything to do with educational goals. I very seldom make it to you all's meetings because I have another virtual going on right now in another room.
If you can make it, if Commissioner Adams, if you can make it quick, yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. You spoke on something about a moratorium. We just did one, and I was wondering if it was something that we could do as a city government and being a home rule city to stop another charter or anything from opening to try and interfere with what you all are trying to achieve with our educational goals with our children and keeping our schools afloat.
That sounds awesome. Maybe you should reach out to the superintendent and to see how the May can, you know, do some defensive blocking for the school district.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll call his secretary. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, if that's it from everyone regarding to the extended learning plan, we'll move into old business. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to approve the staff report T1. We already had a support and a second. So any questions, comments, concerns from the Board of Education members before we call the vote?
This is Secretary Robinson. I'm sorry. Let me turn my camera on.
Yes, ma'am.
So the only comment that I have is I was looking at the two-way communication rates and the attendance rates. And I know, I'm not sure which board meeting it was, but I asked what we had in place to ensure our kids aren't left behind for virtual planning. And so I know that you showed me a lot of different tiers of what we can do when the students are missing in action, what the teachers have in their rights to do as next steps when that occurs. So just putting this out as a reminder that that was provided, and I'll be looking forward to seeing which of those steps were taken in the next month so that we can see increase in December and see that those actions did actually take place with the teachers.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Robinson, please call the vote.
President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
okay. Secretary Robinson,
Yes.
Trustee Watson,
Yes.
Okay, staff report T1 passes. Any old business? Any new business? All right, at this time, we have open public comment. So anyone that's on, please state your name and address for open public comment. And you have 3 minutes to speak.
Just briefly, hi, I'm Apollonia Williams, 408 Lincoln Street in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Reflecting back to the Connexus, aren't they the same ones who have the JAG program that's already in the programs like that instead of trying to divide? So I guess that was just when you said it, that Connexus was the entity that was doing that. I just thought about the JAG program, and I know that the JAG program comes from Connexus, and I know that's a good program within the high school. So that's just one of the things that we could, if we're, I don't know what's going to be next going to them, but I think that's one thing that we could present to them if they can just provide more programs instead of trying to divide.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Anyone else for open public comment?
Yes, Ronaldo Triplet 818 South. And been honored to about this opportunity, and to Joseph and Michelle and to Darwin and to Denise, just a special thank you for standing in the gap when decisions had to be made and people had to come in and step in to those voids and those spaces in those places. I do have quite sure that as we go along, we'll be able to look at things more intensely. But what I am concerned about is the fact that the assumptions made that we're from Benton Harbor, and we know how Benton Harbor is, and we know that our kids are low, and we know, and so because we know, do we lower the standards because we know, or do we put that stuff out there and make sure that our students and our parents have an opportunity to be competitive? Because it doesn't matter where people come from. They might come from affluent districts and what have you all over the state and all over the nation. But we're concerned about Benton Harbor. And I think that, I would like to feel confident in the fact that we have people who are in charge of our school system that say, regardless of what, we're going to shoot for the best. And when we put that, when we put the best out there at the forefront, our kids, our parents, and our community will rise to that occasion. And so in closing, I know this is very, very difficult work during the pandemic, but also there are a lot of districts across this state who are doing an excellent job in making the necessary adjustments without excuse. So I'm just looking forward to seeing that kind of feel and that kind of zeal for the students here in Benton Harbor area schools. And to Dr. Townsville, thank you so much for being transparent and standing in the gap in this season. I know when you took this position, you had no idea that you were taking this position in a pandemic. So again, thank you so much for standing in there and stepping in there and continuing to do the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. Anyone else for open public comment? All right, so at this time, we'll have superintendent announcements and/or comments.
Thank you. First thing I'd like to do is congratulate Mr. Renato Triplett, Ms. Angel Creighton, Mr. Trenton Bowens, and Ms. Stephanie Roquette Martin for being elected to serve as our board of trustees for the future. I'm very excited to work collaboratively with the new board members once you all take office. I also look forward to the onboarding and the board member one-on-one sessions that we have coming up, so we can have not only a great working relationship, but that we can meet and exceed the expectations of Benton Harbor area schools. I do agree with you, Mr. Triplett. I think if we put together a high-level educational system and program, our students will rise to the occasions. That's a testament to the high achievers from Benton Harbor all over our country, nation, as well as globally. So I really can't wait to not only when we get out this pandemic, but even now, work with the new board members to make this a revitalized school district. Additionally, I had an opportunity to host Dr. Rice, our state superintendent, the week before last. He was very impressed. He visited two of our campuses, Discovery Enrichment Center, as well as Fairplain Middle School, and had a lot of positive things to say. One thing in our conversation, I attended a Michigan Department of Education new superintendents seminar, and we're talking about the Michigan Top 10 Strategy Education Plan. And I do believe that in the next 10 years, Michigan will be a top 10 state with regards to academic achievement, and Benton Harbor will do their part in achieving academic success to help support the state in moving up as being a top 10 state competing. We're going to, as a district, once we get our feet under us and work with not only our Board of Education, but our stakeholders, we will develop a new or revitalized mission, vision, our guiding principles, our goals as a district, and metrics to ensure success. As we all remember, we did approve the recommendations from the Community Engagement Advisory Committee that also addressed academic achievement as well as our finances and operations. So we really look forward to executing on that plan. I look forward to having as much information as possible. I'm so grateful to live within our community, but as we move forward in 2021, we do hope to develop at the superintendent's level and a parent advisory council, a teacher advisory council, and a key communicators network where we can meet monthly and in some cases quarterly to ensure that at the district level, we have all information that we need from the community to ensure we're doing what's right for every student in Benton Harbor area schools. Also, I want to highlight our Director of State and Federal Grant, Ms. Tracy Davis, submitted an application for a STEM grant through the BHAS company, and we were awarded $6,700 or $6,700 for STEM education support at Hull. So we're excited about that. We appreciate Ms. Tracy for that. I also want to talk about our upcoming employee assistance program. I think Commissioner Alice asked about that. We are developing an employee assistance program where we recognize that employees have good emotional well-being to contribute to their success in the district. We also recognize statistically 1 in 5 employees will face a significant personal or professional problem that could potentially disrupt their lives at work. Our district are in the process of a robust employee assistance program that support the mental health of our employees so they can be healthy and thrive here in our profession. We'd like to acknowledge Abundant Life Church. They donated $2,000 to our Tiger Marching Band. Our band performed at the election day, and the church blessed us with a $2,000 donation to go directly to that band. And we can't wait to get that to them to support the kids there. Also, we'd like to acknowledge Ms. Tracy Burton and Ms. Shannon Rockett. They were honored by the Berrien Community Foundation for their excellent volunteerism this year. They both received the 2020 Golden Acorn Award for their volunteerism in appreciation for their hard work and creative energy they placed in creating an award-winning video for the 2020 Consensus. That a community member, an employee of Whirlpool, Ms. Katie Ramley, when they heard about the water emergency in Benton Harbor, she and some other philanthropists So 60 to 80 cases of water distributed right here at the high school. We do have them stored safely in a cool location so that we have fresh water in the building. We're not drinking from those fountains, and we can support our teachers and kids. Last, when I came on board as the superintendent, during my interview almost a year ago in December, level configuration in the district, looking at academic achievement and how we can best increase academic achievement. And what I pre-messaged was that I'd like to reconfigure our grade level from being not an early childhood center, a 1-3 center, a 4-5 center, middle school and high school, to traditional K-5 campuses of middle school and high school. And also by transitioning Fairplain West Elementary to an elementary school, opening that building up. We've been working extremely hard with Whiteman, looking at all of our buildings, where they stand. And in December, at each of our committee meetings, from finance to facilities to teaching and learning, the expectation is to share a draft of what we would like to recommend for the future of Benton Harbor with regards to grade level configuration and what the future will look like to get the best academic program possible so our young people can exceed state averages with regards to student achievement. That concludes my superintendent announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Townsend. At this time, we'll have board member announcements and or comments. We'll start with Mr. Bradley.
Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well. First of all, I would like to thank the public for coming out and participating in the call, administrators and staff. First thing I wanted to do is welcome our new board members, and I look forward to working with you all. I've had an opportunity to reach out to all of them. And just, if they have any questions, to get back with me. And it was good to hear them, a few of them tonight, offering input, because it's always good to, hear different things from different sources. So once again, congratulations to them. And we look forward to working with you and continuing the momentum that we have going on in the district. Also, before I forget, I know we have one more meeting with everybody, so I'll probably say it again too, is to thank the current members that are getting ready to leave in January for your service. I was sitting here not too long ago just reflecting where we were at a year ago on some things, and it's amazing how we've come in, into a whole year. We weren't expecting the pandemic, but of course, we've made a lot of progress as a district, and we still have a long way to go, but we're getting there. And I'm surely learning that change does take time, and when you be patient and let the changes take place, you see good results. They had the annual leadership conference this weekend, but it was all virtual. But of course, everybody's mind was on what was going on nationally with the election. So I did have a chance to kind of drop in and out of some of the clinic sessions that they had. And so, they had some good sessions this year. I hate that it wasn't in person, because you kind of have a better feel when you can go in person to a lot of these trainings. And to the new board members, please, get into the trainings so that we can hit the ground running. And it's good to have a good informed, well-informed board. Want to say to the superintendent, keep up the good work. To his administrative staff, keep up the good work. Thank you so much to our teachers. Keep up the good work. Also, I know Commissioner Adams had said that would be good for the city and the school district to collaborate there on that, if she can get that going. So good things are looking here. I want to encourage everyone. Stay encouraged. Also, my prayers and thoughts are going to a lot of people that have lost a loved one during these trying times. That's all I have to say.
Well said, Mr. Bradley. Thank you. Trustee Watson.
Thank you, President Taylor. First thing, I'd like to congratulate the new board members that are coming on board. Look forward to seeing some great things out of the new board composition as well. I'd like to offer my condolences to Secretary Robinson on her loss. And just want to let everyone know, just stay safe as we see everything starting to unravel and get crazy again. We got to stay the course. I know we've got some fatigue, but at the same time, we still got to be, vigilant, and we got to be very, very steadfast in what we're doing to make sure that we can get on the other side of this pandemic. And President Taylor, I've got to leave, so may I be excused?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my comments.
All right, so Secretary Robinson.
So I want to begin by congratulating our new members that will be coming in January, Mr. Triplett, Ms. Clark Creighton, Mr. Bowens, and Ms. Rockette Martin. Excited to have you all. Also bittersweet that we're going to be losing our current board. Just want to thank you all for inviting me into the board with warm, welcoming arms and teaching me over the last almost year as we've become a board of one, but looking forward to growing and continuing to learn from the new board members. I want to thank you all for your condolences provided. My grandfather was my everything. If you know me, you understand that. That was my father. I didn't think I would make it or be here today, but I haven't missed a board meeting or a committee meeting yet, and I didn't want to start now. So I do thank you all for being patient, as I've been a little bit more quiet than normal. But just looking forward to achieving great things. I hope everyone is staying safe and staying healthy. COVID-19 is very real. Do not take. We need to be protecting ourselves more now than ever. And as stated earlier, just looking forward to receiving the information in next board's meeting on how we are increasing our attendance and two-way communication to ensure that our students are successful. So thank you. That's all I have today.
Thank you. Vice President Crowder.
Condolences to you as well, Deshauna. I'm sorry to hear that. And also, if you need to ask me any questions, just email me. They might cut off my, well, I'll give you my personal email, because we won't be able to have regular Ben Harbor Area School emails anymore. But I think it's fantastic that students are being supported in their homes with that group of students going around to help the students. Because a lot of times our kids need help at home, that maybe their parents are busy doing something else and can't always help them online, or they may not get the attention of the teacher at that particular time. So that is a fantastic program. And it's going to be especially important now that we're getting ready to go virtual after Thanksgiving for that those few weeks. So it is very, very vital that we keep those students working in the homes with our students. And I think that would be another way to help during the NWA, have them on a schedule to go to different homes to sit with the kids at the different grade levels, especially lower L, so that they're able to take the NWEA correctly without an older person giving answers, because sometimes parents don't know that you're not supposed to give answers to students, and or doing a test. So that's going to be very important, and to keep our testing so that it's the students' work, and we know it's the students' work. So I'm very thankful for that grant. Also, thanks to Dr. Shelton, that was an excellent presentation. And I'll be looking forward to seeing the next one with some of the percentages going up in all areas. And Superintendent, you are doing an excellent job, and just wanted to thank you for your year of service, and continue on the same road you're on. You're doing an excellent job. And if you don't hear it every day, just call me on the phone or email me, and I'll give you your congratulations, okay? All right, that's all I have to say. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you, Vice President. For my comments, I want to, because I haven't done it yet, but I want to do it right here on air. Congratulate, Mr. Triplett I'll call you Renato because that's what I've been calling you since I was a young man. Miss Angel Clark Creighton, Mrs. Rockcat Martin, and also Trent Bowens. Congratulations on your efforts, and thank you for taking the time to do public service, because oftentimes, you know, we sit on the sideline, but you guys have taken a chance at running for office. You were elected, and I hope that you do great things. I have one more month on the board. Reach out to me at my email. You can see it on the screen. And after that, I'll even give you the personal email as well, because I want to make sure that any questions, comments, concerns you do have, that I'm still here to help you. No matter what, you'll be the new board, but at the same time, you know, I'm still open to help. Because as we sit in this seat, you know, we sit here for one thing, and that's for what's in the best interest of kids, right? Not what's in the best interest of us. So once again, thank you. And thank you for all those who participated in public participation. Please get the word out that we want everyone to participate, right? And that's how we're going to make this state of business called Benton Harbor Area Schools the greatest that it can be. Looking forward to seeing greater outcomes, and to the superintendent, great job. To your staff, great job. In this pandemic, we continue to do good work, and I know that when this thing is lifted, we're going to do even greater work. With that being said, may I have a motion to close tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Moved by Trustee Bradley. May I have a support?
Support.
Supported by Vice President Crowder. Secretary Robinson, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I feel some type of way Trustee Watson wasn't here to first.
Right?
He was going to talk fast.
Okay, President Taylor,
Yes.
Vice President Crowder,
Yes.
Secretary Robinson votes yes. Trustee Bradley,
Yes.
All right, with that being said, this meeting is adjourned at 7:13. Have a good night, guys. Be
All
safe.
right. Have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.